I don't even know where to get started because there was so much losing it in my life of only 30 years. I am sober now, 2.5 years. So my losing it story is probably a little darker than most, I would say. But because I have so many losing it stories, I'm going to choose like the most fun losing it story. Like, oh, I'm losing it and this is fun until it's not. Which is on my 28th birthday, which is my golden year, as they say, because I'm born on September 28th. I was having a phase where I was really into mushrooms. I don't know if you've ever gone down that road.
A couple of times.
Okay, yeah. So really into mushrooms, specifically this new kind of popular thing that the kids are into, chocolate mushrooms, right? And I had ordered a lot of them, and I was hosting a birthday party, which is fine because this was 2 years before a pandemic. And I had my friends there. I had my parents' friends there. I had at the time, my boyfriend there. And I decided that everyone at this party, whether they wanted to or not, was going to eat chocolate mushrooms. So
wow.
This is me losing it, right? So I, of course, as like an addict would, I keep most of them to myself, like probably way too many. And I distribute throughout the party. You know, I'm putting chocolate in people's mouths and including my parents' friends. My parents are like very straight edge, so they were not involved. I don't even think their friends told them they were doing this, but, sharing them with my parents' friends, and I proceeded to lose it. I think we all lost it in one way or another that night. But because I had hoarded the largest amount of chocolate mushrooms, I was definitely the most fucked up out of everyone. I was also very into pot, so I was, smoking with the mushrooms in my system. It was, it was disastrous, to say the least. Wow. The night ended with me having one of those, like, really bad trips where I became extremely paranoid. And everyone's energy was really, like, I was so sensitive to people's energies. Like, I'd always heard this, but I had never really tripped on anything. But I had heard, like, when you're on shrooms, like, or on acid or whatever you take, you see things like as they are, right? So at the time, my instinct was that my partner, I could not be around him. Like, I was like, I cannot stand his energy. Like, I don't like it. And I can't be around him. And so that was a huge, possibly red flag that I ignored for another year. And there were people I was gravitating to and people I was like gravitating away from. There was paranoia. I thought that someone was sleeping in my bed when they weren't. It was just really scary. And so I would say I fully lost it that night. And it was really fun until I lost it. And then,
until it wasn't.
Exactly. And then about a month later, I decided to get sober. And so that was kind of one of my last hurrahs. And actually after that, you would think that because I had such a weird experience towards the end, that I would be like, I'm done with this. But I became obsessed with chocolate mushrooms even more after. And I proceeded to eat them by myself at parties.
Wow.
Because I didn't really like to drink. And so I was like, oh, well, what's the difference? And that is essentially a big losing it for me.
Wow. So, okay. So first of all, I can't believe that you're like, I'm having my birthday party and I want everyone, whether they want to or not, to take mushrooms. Yeah. So like, that is so ballsy. Like, it's crazy, and I can't believe that your parents' friends were there and that they're like, okay, we'll trip. Sure. fine, whatever, right? Have they ever done mushrooms before?
I'm sure. I think one of them had gone to Woodstock, so I don't think it was anything too crazy for them.
Yeah, for them, they're like, yeah, sure. Okay, mushrooms, yeah. Okay, and so when you say that you got sober after that, did you go a traditional route? Are you a 12-step person?
I did go a traditional route, kind of. So as I said, alcohol was never really my thing. So I explored other 12-step programs that are within the same kind of umbrella. And my real love of my life was marijuana. And so I had to kind of learn to stop with that. But that was like the root of all of my things.
I have a lot of friends that are sober and in various 12-step programs. I've been in 12-step programs myself. And I think that, the great thing about AA is, the only requirement for membership is a desire to not drink. So you can even go, you can go to an AA meeting and say, oh yeah, I don't want to drink, and apply all the principles to whatever your substance is. So
exactly.
I think that, it's one of the beauties, I think the program is so brilliant in so many ways. And I know that they have, I think they have marijuana. I know they have Marijuana Anonymous.
They do. Yeah. And it's growing.
Yeah. Because you know what? There's so many pot smokers out there, man.
Especially in LA.
Yeah. They're I think it's much more the drug of choice for your generation, and I grew up in the 70s, so there was a lot of pot smoking, and that was definitely like, I started smoking pot in junior high school and middle school because I had big brothers, and, but there was never really, it was never really my thing for that long. But I feel like it's become this thing. And, keep in mind that I'm looking at it from a certain generation, and I'm a mom and all that. But I do feel like there's sort of this illusion that it's not a drug, or that you can't get addicted, or that it doesn't fuck you up. And I just think, really? I mean, I don't know. I'm not, and I don't want to preach, and I don't think it's bad if you smoke pot or drink or whatever. But I think that, if anything becomes a crutch, I don't know. Yeah. Like you said, it's fun until it's not. It's fun until it's not. Yeah. So I think that's fantastic. So how were there any repercussions the day after the party or weeks after where people were like, Lindsey, honey?
You know what?
Wow.
I think that when someone has a problem, they really think that everybody is focused on them. And the reality is they're not. Like, everyone had a great time, and they were like, that was so fun. And not one person was like, that was a little much. Like, no, everyone was like, that was amazing. I can't wait for next year. And
did you say, oh yeah, it was amazing? Or did you keep all that? Did you keep it to yourself?
I did keep it to myself, but I also was like still in denial. Like, I wasn't sober yet. I wasn't working any sort of program. So like, that was normal. Like, I was like, oh, crazy night, like another story. Woo. So fun.
Yeah.
You don't think about it until like the hindsight.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so then, so if that didn't get you into a meeting, or what do you think happened that made you go, not again?
Yeah.
What made you like look at a joint and go, I gotta stop this?
For me, it was actually way more mundane. Like, I woke up, I would wake up and smoke weed, and I would be high for like, the entire day and night until I went to bed. And one night I went to bed and I was like, I don't want to smoke weed tomorrow. And I woke up, and of course, I needed to be high for breakfast, because who can eat food without being high? And so I smoked, and I was like, I didn't want to do that just now, but I did it. And that's weird. And that's when I messaged my friend who is in AA, and I was like, is there anything for weed? Like, I think this is like my moment of clarity where I'm like, I need I have this window where I need something to help me. And so that was when I found a good resource finally.
That's fantastic. And I love the fact that you talk about it on the podcast. And I think that obviously, in keeping with who you are and in keeping with the message, the mission statement of the podcast, it's like, talking about stuff that maybe other people aren't talking about. And just, those resources are there. And, I think that when, if you're waking up and you're staying high all day, and maybe you think that you don't want to,
right.
Oh, guess what? There's an option.
Right.
Yeah. So what's the biggest change or shift you've noticed in yourself since being sober?
Yeah, I think, I was a lot more selfish than I realized. I think I had thought that me getting high was like for other people because I was like, chiller. When in reality, it just made me more self-absorbed because I was like always worrying about getting myself to a certain point. I think now I'm able to be more of service to other people and show up for my friends and have healthy relationships with my partner and my family. And it was really mood altering. And now my mood is way more stable. And, I'm able to focus on the things that matter. I had so much free time when I stopped smoking weed. Like I was like, oh my God, like look at all the time I have, and it was such a blessing.
Oh, that is so great. I love that so much. And I love the term being of service. It's so powerful. It's so powerful to be of service and to think about that and to ask yourself, how can I be of service? And versus like, what can I get?
Yeah. Yeah.
What can I give? When I made that shift in myself, I mean, I've made a lot of shifts on and off, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but surprisingly, I've made some big shifts in my life in my 60s. And one of them really recently had to do with that concept, with that concept of like in my career versus like, how can I get an agent? How can I get somebody to read this screenplay? How can I be in service? What do I have to give? And when I started doing that from a genuine place versus, I'm going to give so I can get,
Right.
All right, they've told me I should give, so I'm going to do that give thing, but I'm still waiting, I had such a shift in my life. And it's so, it's simple, but it's not easy, but it's profound and it's lovely. I'm so glad to hear that. That's so lovely. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. If given your losing it story, which I love, and I kind of wish I could have been at your party just so I could have witnessed it. Given your losing it story, what would you say? What did you learn from? What's the biggest lesson that you learned from it, and what might you say to somebody who might be facing a similar situation?
I think I would just say like, it's all fun and games until it's really not anymore. And you know deep down that something is off. Oh, I don't know what just happened. And, just to make sure you check in with yourself and make sure that your habits are healthy. And if you don't think that they are, like, there are places and resources for you out there, which is so wonderful, especially that everything's virtual today.
Yeah. Because you can show up on Zoom and you don't even have to turn your camera on.
Exactly.
You can really just be in the room, That's great.